Tonight on Rock Center, hundreds, perhaps thousands of parents told by the people they trusted most that their newborns died at birth. But what really happened to all those children?
Nobody buried with that name.
Absolutely no.
And what does that mean to you?
Has to be alive.
Your son is alive.
We have a son somewhere out there.
A Rock Center exclusive tonight. For the first time, we hear from the man at the center of a story so many people have been following. It happened on opening day at Dodger Stadium. It was a fight, it turned ugly, and it almost cost a San Francisco Giants fan his life.
It makes me so mad when people say it's just Dodger Stadium. I go to games all over the country, 50 stadiums a year, from coast to coast, and it's everywhere. This violence is increasing everywhere.
Also tonight, the man they called the Dear Leader is dead in North Korea. And the question is, will this change anything in that very strange place? And with us in the studio here tonight, Steve Martin, known around the world for comedy, of course. He is a very serious musician, nominated for another Grammy. And before we go tonight, the rink out our back door is celebrating a major life event. Rock Center gets underway right now. Good evening and welcome to Rock Center. And as you watch our lead story tonight, imagine unearthing such a thing. Thousands of families who are at first told the nightmarish news that their infant child had died during childbirth. But then years later, one by one, they unearth evidence that the whole thing might have been a lie. That's exactly what thousands of families in Spain are going through as the unimaginable slowly comes to light. It went on for decades, apparently, and doctors, clergy, even the government all appear to have played some sort of a role. Kate Snow went to Spain to investigate how it is that children were stolen at birth.
In Madrid, Spain, this year has been a momentous one for Luis Vega and his daughter Ana. They're searching for someone they've never met, trying to piece together what really happened back in 1977. The Vegas were a young family then with one little boy. Luis's wife, Ines, was pregnant and in labor. Luis was in the waiting room. And a nurse comes out
And tell me, hi, sir, there are two coming. I started to think, I got two.
Twins. There was Ana and a baby boy. But soon after their birth, the doctor came out with terrible news.
The boy is dead. I recommend you not to see him.
Because it would be too jarring to see the body?
Yeah.
Do you remember your feelings in that moment?
I mean, I couldn't react. I couldn't say anything. I mean, I felt frozen.
Every year on Ana's birthday, Luis and Ines talked about her twin, the boy they lost. But then this year, the Vegas heard something that made them think, for the first time, their child may be alive. For years, there had been whispers, but now an unbelievable story was exploding in the press. Allegations that, for decades, organized networks stole newborn babies from their mothers and sold the babies to other families. Back in January, more than 250 families filed cases with Spain's Attorney General demanding investigations. The number has grown since. Today, nearly 1,500 cases have been filed. This is a famous documentary. If anyone is responsible for prompting all this, it's documentary filmmaker and author Montse Armengol, who was among the very first to report systematic baby stealing. You've investigated this for so many years. Can you say without a doubt that babies were stolen in Spain?
From the 40s until 80s as a minimum, we can talk about children that were kidnapped from their families, from their mothers.
Stolen babies, niños robados.
Niños robados.
Armengol and her team found the practice began after fascist dictator Francisco Franco seized power during Spain's civil war of the late 1930s. The government would remove children from mothers who were political prisoners and give them to families who supported the regime.
All this started like a political repression.
But then it goes over the years from being a political thing to really being economic, to being a business.
Yes.
Money starts to change hands.
Yes, yes.
Large sums, thousands of dollars were paid for the babies. Spain was an ultra-conservative society dominated by the Catholic Church, and nuns or doctors were often key players. And who's getting that money? The nuns? The doctors? The church?
Little by little, all together.
All of them?
Yes, all of them.
It's the Vega's greatest fear that the son they believed had died was actually sold. The more they questioned what happened in 1977, the more they realized how little they knew. Luis Vega says the doctors told him they'd take care of all the funeral arrangements for his baby boy. They said the family shouldn't get involved. It would be too upsetting. He assumed that the baby would be buried here in Madrid's main cemetery. But 3 decades later, when he requested documents and records from that time, he was stunned by what he found out. What did you get back from the cemetery?
No fetus.
Nobody buried with that name?
Absolutely no. This is the confirmation from the cemetery.
And what does that mean to you?
Has to be alive.
Your son is alive.
We have a son somewhere out there.
Luis hired a detective who managed to get a list of every boy born in Madrid on November 20th, 1977. There are 61 names, and he's been going door to door trying to track them all down. Why is this so important to you right now?
I don't want him to think why my real parents abandoned me.
You don't want him to feel abandoned?
No.
You want him to know that he was loved?
Absolutely.
Maria Luisa Torres has a deep understanding of the Vegas story. In 1982, she was the mother of a 2-year-old and separated from her husband when she became pregnant by another man, something unacceptable in Spain at that time. Even as late as the 1980s, babies born out of wedlock were often taken and placed with families of higher social standing. It wasn't only about money, it was seen as a moral good. But Maria Luisa had other ideas. What were you thinking about your future?
My plan was to go ahead with a pregnancy and keep my baby.
When Maria Luisa arrived at the hospital, a nun who'd promised to help her presided over the birth. She had no idea that that help was about to turn into a nightmare.
They anesthetized me. They put me to sleep completely.
You slept through the whole thing.
I wasn't aware of a thing.
Maria Luisa says when she woke up, the nun told her her baby daughter had died. She didn't believe it, so she snuck out of her room and saw her newborn sleeping in the nursery. She says when she demanded her baby, the nun threatened her.
She said, either you shut up and don't ask any more questions, or I'll take both your children from you, and you'll go to jail. Blackmail.
She felt helpless. She says against her will, the baby was given up for adoption. Were you thinking of her all those years?
Always. Something was missing. Like a piece of me was missing.
I was born March 31st, 1982.
On the other side of Madrid, Pilar Alcalde always knew she'd been adopted, but never dreamt she was stolen. Until one day this year, she saw a TV show about the controversy that put a knot in her stomach.
There were mothers on the show who said things like, I didn't abandon you, I've been looking for you. And I knew right then, from the bottom of my heart, I was a stolen child.
A television station investigating the scandal uncovered the details of Pilar's birth and made the connection to a woman who had a baby on the same day at the same place, Maria Luisa Torres. Could Pilar be her stolen baby? Both women gave DNA samples and then met for the first time on a live television broadcast, waiting for confirmation. Did the DNA match?
Ha llegado el momento. ¡Sí, son
Mother and daughter reunited after 30 years.
I jumped up and hugged her as though I'd known her my whole life. It was beautiful.
It was a miracle. I have feelings of happiness because I found her. but above all, feelings of rage and hatred.
Hatred for the nun she accuses of stealing her little girl. We went to the convent where the nun lives, but she declined to talk to us. Spain's government hasn't talked to her either, even though she's been implicated in dozens of cases. In fact, among all the hundreds of cases filed across Spain, no one has yet been charged with a crime. The Spanish government told us prosecuting the alleged crimes is extremely difficult because they took place so long ago. Many suspects are already dead. But in some cases, like the Vegas, there are people involved who are still around. Vega's lawyer has advised him not to confront the doctor he believes stole his child, a doctor still living in Madrid. What would you say to him?
You're a bastard. Son of a bitch. It's the best name I can tell you.
Do you think justice will ever be done?
No. No. This bastard has taken our life.
Yet Luis Vega is still hopeful, convinced his family's story will have an ending like the one Maria Luisa and Pilar have. And like a lot of Spaniards, they're still searching, unafraid to face the dark mysteries of their country's past.
Kate, I was just going to ask why they felt compelled to reveal the paternity test in a game show format. Then I realized it's a minor industry here in the United States as well. It's so the motive was part moral, part financial, but you say hundreds of claims going back to the 1940s. That means there are grandchildren that people don't know about.
No, that's right, that's right. And to this point, 1,500 cases filed. There are many who believe there could be tens of thousands of cases out there, but proving them is so incredibly difficult. So far, only a handful of people have found each other in the way that Maria Luisa and Pilar did. That's very rare.
And we know it is a big story in Spain. It'll probably prompt other countries to do the same thing, other families to ask questions. Thank you for bringing it to us. Kate Snow here with us in the studio.